here and engaged in treaty and then broke those treaty promises and engaged in an unbalanced relationship to the land, one that was not based on reciprocity, one that was not based on respect, but that was based on taking and taking and taking for the benefit of one to the detriment and the cost of the other. And as a result, we are seeing today a world out of balance. We are seeing so much out of balance, not just our relationship with the world, but the relationship we have with one another. The individualistic, out for everyone, out for themselves, not looking after one another. And so what we're seeing is that this climate crisis is an opportunity for us to remember who we are, to remember our original instructions, to come back to that. And that is the only way forward. We have prophecy. The only way forward is to look after one another. So yes, we need to stop fossil fuel expansion. We need to stop pipelines. We need to stop all of those things. And as importantly, we need to start looking after one another. We need to start honoring those waters, honoring our family systems, honoring each other. We will not go forward if we don't bring those reciprocal and relationships back, that responsibility of relationships. And so that is, as a steering committee member for Indigenous Climate Action, what we call on the governments to do, what we call on all people to do, is to understand that all aspects of society need to be held in this area of respect and reciprocity. So yes, let's stop what we're doing, but we need to start something new. We need to start by looking back at what works. What were those original instructions? And so we ask that settler society, people of European ancestry or ancestry from other areas, from people from outside of these lands historically, do when you come here, live here, build your future here, raise your families here, understand what were the original instructions of these lands and how are you living that out? Not just at voting, not just during an election, not just during, when there's a rally, but how are you doing this every day? And so yeah, we call on our politicians, we call on leaders, but I'm also calling on every single one of you to remember those relationships, to learn where you are, to understand how to live here in a good way. Because what we're seeing is the consequences of not living in accordance to those original instructions. And we have those, and we will share them with you. We can show you how to live here in a good way, and how we can bring those relationships together so that our future generations, our children and our grandchildren, will have something beautiful and amazing to live amongst, and that this is the time that we start to take those actions. So I ask that you support Indigenous Climate Action or at indigenousclimateaction.com, learning how we move forward, what we see this climate crisis calling on us to do, really looking at it through a different perspective. And we ask that you stand with us. Stand with us on the front lines of stopping the pipelines. We are putting our bodies in between the RCMP, these corporations. We are doing it alone, and we need you to stand with us. But we also need you to stand with us on all aspects of Indigenous sovereignty, on putting forth the legal requirements for accessing these lands, to understand what does that really mean. So go there, read up on what we do, how you can educate yourself, and how you can contribute to the cause that we're putting forward, and that we can continue to build these relationships today, right now. Thank you so much for saying.
And the central message, thank you for starting us off. Very, very important. And our next speaker is Josh Campbell. Josh is a man who's a friend of mine and also just gets involved in anything. He's willing to really work hard to try to save our planet. So he's also a member of the Regina Energy Transition, Wascana Solar Co-op, and he's a high school teacher here in Regina. So Josh, come on up.
Yeah, Josh.
Thanks, Vicki, and thank you, Michelle, so much for that. And I know Michelle and her partner are people we have a lot to learn from. So I just really value anything you folks bring forward. Thank you. So my name's Josh, and I'm here representing Regina Energy Transition and Wascana Solar Co-op. I'm also a high school teacher, as Vicki said, in Regina, and one of my students will be sharing a very powerful speech after I'm done. I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about Regina Energy Transition and an example of something which people can get involved in to help with the crisis we're in. Regina Energy Transition began earlier this year with the goal of helping the city in its transition to becoming a renewable city by 2050. It was started by a group of organizations, including Wascana Solar Co-op, that wanted to champion 4 policies that would help the city reach its goal. One of the things that we need to consider with our policies is energy justice. How do we include all people in transitioning our societies away from fossil fuels, not just the wealthy? For this, I'd like to thank Dr. Emily Eaton, who helped our group and gave us some insights in this way. And I think overall, this is something we just really need to think about in a just transition, is the concept of energy justice as well, including all people in that transition. So in view of this, one of our initiatives is we want fare free transit phased in Regina, starting with free transit for people under 18. Okay. Such initiatives are happening in other parts of the country, such as Victoria. We feel providing free transit to those under 18 will encourage youth to use public transit. Starting with youth, we want to shift the transportation culture towards public and eco-transit, away from our car-focused transit. So this initiative is about the environment as well as justice for lower-income families and youth. This policy will make it more accessible for families to take the bus. So if you have any interest in supporting a policy like this, please take time to sign our petition today. Yvette, where are you? Okay, it's at the Enviro Collective. It's a tent? Bench, okay. If you're interested in signing that, please join us. I know there was to be a focus on federal policy today, but we wanted to make sure that you folks know this is one very concrete way that we can achieve energy justice in our city. And we call on, it's our hope that people will choose a federal government that supports not only a transition to renewable energy, but one that also considers energy justice in that transition. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Check out that bench. All right, next I want to invite Haley Watson to come on up. Oh, right here. Hi. Haley, right here, is a student, as Josh mentioned, at Miller High School, is a member of the Regina Energy Transition as well, and is a fare-free transit youth advocate. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Haley Watson. I'm 16 and go to Miller High School. I'm a part of a few groups, including Regina Citizen Public Transition Coalition, Miller's Permaculture Club, and Regina Energy Transition. Specifically acting with the Fair Free Transit for Youth Initiative. Climate change has always been a topic of interest to me. I remember hearing about the species going extinct, mass deforestation, the polar ice caps melting, but always felt powerless to get involved. The more I learned, the more fear I felt about my future. I tried to imagine my ideal life in 50 years, but I struggled because I knew the effects of the climate crisis would get worse and worse. Right now, I look to the leaders of this world and don't see the appropriate action being taken. We keep getting more reports confirming this is an emergency, yet it's still not being treated as one. Climate change has been affecting marine life, Arctic life, people in poverty for decades, and so many others. We are seeing the effects right here in Saskatchewan. The fires up north driving people out of their homes, farmers who experience droughts and extreme storms and hail, people's homes flooding. Climate change is already here, and we need to act accordingly. All of humanity needs to start having more empathy for all the creatures and living things on Earth. It shouldn't take us experiencing the extremes of climate change for ourselves to finally start caring. It's critical for everyone to change this mindset so actions are being taken everywhere. The question that always follows is, what can we do? Well, you've all done the first step by attending this event and being willing to listen. We can all make small changes in our lives with sustainability in mind. Start by committing to doing the things you've always been told, such as turning off lights or using less water. These are great to do individually, but on a bigger scale, it requires us to work together and use our collective voices to demand change.
Yes, demand change!
For example, we can start with changing our city, and not just our households. Right now, I'm working with the group trying to get fare-free transit for those under 18 in Regina. We can get away from the car-focused transit we are currently in and shift the transportation culture towards public and eco-transit, which can make a big difference. If you want to see this happen, please visit the website Be Heard Regina and scroll down and find the Transit Master Plan. Here, you can write posts regarding what changes you want to see in transit, as well as please like the posts about transit for those under 18. Or you could also go sign the petition. This lets Regina know this is a change citizens want to see. With the federal election coming up, it's more important than ever to prioritize looking at the candidates' climate crisis policies and demanding real change. You must remember that your vote will determine the world you will be living in. Express to your local candidates that we want real action. We must become a sustainable society. Federal parties need to make an urgent transition plan that leaves no one behind and moves past fossil fuels. I know this is possible and that my future can be secure, along with humanity and all life on Earth. We are relying on each other to make the right decisions, so please, do the right thing and make the climate crisis a priority. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Haley, for that speech. Next, we have Lori Campbell. Lori Campbell is a Two-Spirit Cree-Métis educator and advocate from Treaty 6 territory in northern Saskatchewan and a member of Montreal Lake First Nation.